Okay, we'll start. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. This is the inaugural class of IMI Award winners. If you want to just go around real fast and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Ryan. I make YouTube videos about the creator industry and how my personal life kind of ties into it. I guess you could call them video essays. So yeah, that's me.
I'm Van Neistat. I have a YouTube channel called The Spirited Man, and it's basically Mr. Rogers for adults, and I think it's about thinking with your hands.
My name is Erica Heilman, and I make a podcast called Rumble Strip in Vermont.
My name is Anand Varma. Basically, I take pictures of weird animals. That's about it.
My name's Jane Marie. I host a podcast called The Dream about, well, maybe I don't have to tell you what it's about large-scale scams. Exactly. Just be a scammer.
My name is Destin. I have a YouTube channel called Smarter Every Day. I just like to do science and stuff.
Yeah. So how's the day been? I know some people drank when it got barbecue. We didn't warn people that there's barbecue for dinner. Where'd you guys go?
We went to Black's Barbecue. I think that's what it's called. I'm learning about brisket. There's lean brisket, not lean brisket. What is not lean brisket called?
Fatty.
Fatty brisket. And we had some sausage. I learned that the link of sausage has a little tied off place, and you shouldn't eat that.
Did anybody else have barbecue? No?
I missed the barbecue. I missed the barbecue. I did not get the barbecue memo.
Okay. Well, dinner. Yeah, so this is the festival. There's not a lot planned. I just wanted to introduce you guys to everyone before. There'll be a more formal award ceremony later. And I also wanted you, I don't think we've all been together before, so I wanted you to see each other all up together at the same time. Yeah.
Thank you for doing it. So what was your idea behind IMI Fest? What were you hoping would happen when we started here?
Classic Destin, always turn it around. Yeah, I mean, the idea behind the festival is that, the internet is clearly the world's largest forum for human expression, and each and every one of you here express yourself in different ways, online, independently, in your shops, in your labs,
Your closets.
And I think that we just sort of didn't think that there was any place that was celebrating the independence, celebrating the new way which people make things, the intrinsic value of doing things creatively, independently, and then the things that result through that process. And that you guys all are from different professional backgrounds, have different professional cultures and associations and things that you call yourself or think of yourself as. And that's one of the things that I think we're trying to cut through those type of associations, because I think that the modern day public doesn't really care so much. What they care about is the authenticity. What they care about is the independence. They care about what you're making, and it's not radio or television or film. It's just modern technology, and so last night, what I said is that each and every one of you is exceptional, and everyone in the audience is exceptional in the sense that only you could make it. No one except for you could make it. And the independent media landscape allows for that to happen. So that's what the festival's about. This particular iteration and version is, the first one, is trying to in recognition of that, encourage people to like take agency in what they watch and what they make. So maybe that's a good starting point for me to throw it back to you, Destin. You know, like how does the independence in what you make show up in your channel? Like, it's very, very hyper local. I think a lot of you have that also in common, that like you source what you make from your community, from your life, the things that are meaningful to you, and that gives it the depth and the soul that I think people really engage with.
I think authenticity is the key, and if you never act, you never have to remember what your character was that you wrote. You're just the real person, and you're talking about sourcing from your local community. I listened to the first episode of your podcast, and was that your friend's mom? Like, we started this whole rabbit trail by going to your friend's mom.
Is this being recorded and broadcast somewhere?
Well, we have.
It's being recorded. It's not live streamed or anything
It's
like
not.
that.
Is it going to get broadcast?
It will probably be put somewhere, but we can
We
edit
want
something
the
out.
drama.
I know.
We
I
can
wanna tell
edit
you
something
whose
out if we
mom it
absolutely
is.
have to.
So
Okay.
tell
It's a
people-
friend of mine who's a famous rapper. Come up to me later and I'll tell you. But it is my friend's mom on that show who ran a pyramid scheme back in the 80s, like a very illegal pyramid scheme in New York City. And she's just hilarious talking about it. We got really lucky finding that person. Yeah.
I think that's the magic, is like they're actual stories and they're real things. And I think everyone in the room, everybody here does amazing things, and we all know the things we could do to win the algorithm.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to say what you said earlier?
I'm not going to say the video that would win the algorithm, but we all know the things that would win, and we're choosing not to do it for authenticity purposes. That's my opinion anyway.
I feel
Wait,
like I'm
you
just
claim
amusing
to
myself.
know? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like I'm just amusing myself. I got lucky that kind of sometimes makes me money every once in a while. But for the most part, that's like what I've tried to do in my career anyway, is make jokes to myself.
Did you say you know what's going to win?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
there's
I
a
don't know
whole
what's
list
going
of
to win.
things that will win the algorithm. I'm not going to say them because once I'll say them offline and tell you.
privately.
Yeah, I'll tell you privately, but there's a whole list of things that'll work.
Okay, then I'm screw authenticity. I'm doing that.
No, but like, you make videos about things that you love, running, right? And you make videos you make podcasts about your community. And
I was never going to win the algorithm. I just want to be really clear about that I do not know the algorithm winners.
I guess YouTube and video making is a little bit different than podcasting, right? So how does one make a podcast work? It's word of mouth, right?
You mean, how do you get an audience?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Make it good. I mean, honestly, like, these are meetings that we have all the time because I have a little production company that's like 4 people. And when people come to pitch us things, I think they're thinking a lot about the algorithm often, when they should be thinking about what's a good story to tell. When I first started out my little company, so many people contacted me to make the cereal of Biggie and Tupac. And I was like, no. First of all, everyone's dead. But, so who would I talk to? But it just felt very much like a pitch that was going to sell, but not something that I could make well. You know, I'd imagine that's how you feel.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't. The answer is I don't know. I think I just keep making it, and maybe if you make it long enough, someone will. I mean, you make it as good as you can, people will come. But I've never. I mean, the only 2 places I know how to promote is Facebook and Twitter pretty badly. So I don't know the answer to that. But this is what was so interesting about our media, meeting all us, you folks last year, is just the fascinating difference in how we don't make money. And that was fascinating. Learning how little money we make was something I learned.
Yeah.
Didn't you remember that?
I remember the
Yeah.
discussion, and there was like this moment where everyone turned over cards, and you said, "What?"
Right.
Yeah, and because the YouTubers are trying to go after algorithmic impact, and who knows how you do what you do, Anand? I mean,
Yeah.
like how do you keep an egg in a closet and then or in a bathtub and take pictures of it, and then how what is the funding? How do you live?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll tie it back to this question of independence because I think this has been an experiment I've been running for about 5 years as I've left a more traditional editorial magazine track that has a sort of a known ecosystem of how you make money. You know, you pitch a story and you get some day rate. And I was kind of like, I didn't mean to take this much of a deviation from that path. I wanted to take a few months and do a little independent project that I cared about and reconnect to what I wanted to do. And from there, it became an experiment of like, I wonder how long I can just do what I want to do without paying attention to what is expected of me. And when am I going to run out of money and have to go back on my hands and knees and beg for an assignment again? And I got pretty close to running out of money and just being like, okay, well, that fellowship came and went, and I got 4 more months, and I'm going to have to pitch the next story. But then what I was able to make out of that was interesting enough for somebody to say, hey, we actually like what you do when you're left alone, so we're going to give you some more money to do that. And I was like, wow, that really worked. I'm going to keep
Who gave you the money?
doing what I want to do.
These
Well,
guys?
this is National Geographic. But there's like a little, but not just National Geographic. They gave me money because this other guy from the Burroughs Welcome, like I've accidentally stumbled into this sort of science philanthropy world.
Okay.
And learned about relationships that happen there and how they wanted to fund me, and because they wanted to fund me, National Geographic wanted to fund me more. And so it was like, whoa, okay. I'm no longer being paid to make I will give you this much money for this picture. It was like, I'm going to give you money to make whatever you make so that we can talk about you.
No
And
mandate.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I'm still in this experiment. I don't know if I am going to run out of runway here, but for the time being, I'm taking incremental steps away from any kind of algorithm and seeing if I can get away with it. And I currently seem to be getting away with it. So I'm gonna just focus on making it good.
Yeah.
And if I can just do that, I'm gonna be happier. I'm gonna make better work. And hopefully that can be an inspiration to others as well.
So you're erring to the side of authenticity and quality over quantity.
Yes. It took me 4 years to make my last video. Whoa. So, and that was 10 minutes long. That's what I made in the last 4 years.
Which video was that?
This is the JellyFish video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That involved getting aquariums from your mom. And
Yeah. I grew up with 7 aquariums as a kid. Thought I was going to be a marine biologist. Did all this other stuff. Decided, I want to see what it looks like for a jellyfish to be born. And it turns out, maybe I'm just going to do that in my garage. And my mom still had all my old heaters and pumps, and so she shipped them to me. And that's why it took me 4 years, because I had to learn a bunch of stuff before I could turn on the camera.
I think also I want to talk about the money stuff because I wasn't part of that conversation, but I don't make money either. When you are working with big organizations or corporations, which I have to do from time to time, there is this idea of like, we love what you do. Can you do, and I was just saying this to David earlier, we love what you do. Can you do twice as much of it for half the money? And then we'll be good. Like if you could make the dream once a week, I'm like, that's not the show I make, So those decisions come up all the time where it's like, I could definitely make money if I totally changed the thing I was making. And so as long as I'm not starving, I'll keep trying to do that, and my kid will go to public school in Los Angeles. Right, babe? Hi.
Ryan, what is your criteria for if something is good enough to make a video about it?
I feel like at this point, like, what is good enough to make a video about? I don't know if I'm just like feeling a certain type of way in my life at that certain moment. So like my last film that I premiered yesterday.
We'll edit that out.
It was I think I could talk.
Okay.
About it. It was about this like.
It was really good.
Thank you. It was about this playwright that like I was heavily impacted by because like he died the day before his life changes forever and like his art is recognized by the world. And like that's just something that I was going through in my own life, you know, like as a creator who is trying to upload content that kind of means something, and like not seeing the results, like I think about that all the time. Like, what if I die before, you know, anything? If I see any of the fruits of my labor, so it's just something that was going on in my head at the moment, and then I kind of connected the dots of like stories that I see online or movies that I see, and then I decide to make a video about it. I don't know, it's very like instinctual, or like it comes from here. Like I can't really force it, you know. So I don't know. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it's from your soul. It's not
Yeah.
it's not from an external source. It's internal.
Yeah, it's not like I can even force like when it happens, you know. It could take 5 months. It could take, you know, a week. But yeah, I can't put a timer on it as well, you know. So
I think last year, Erica, you had an idea for a video or an episode to do with Ryan, with one of the characters in one of the people in your community who doesn't use the internet.
Oh, that's right. Forrest Foster, right. I was going to take you up to Forest Barn, and I don't remember what we were going to do.
you wanted
You were
to
maybe
take me to Vermont.
you were going to convince him that he needed internet. Was that what was going to happen? I can't
I
remember.
don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't convince him of that though.
Yeah, Forrest lives in another century, but it is not a century that, yeah, he doesn't have internet. So I think we were going to go have some kind of, it was going to be kind of like performance art, but it never happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like now it has to.
Yeah, might have to now. Right.
Yeah.
Van, where do your ideas come from?
Well, before I kind of commit to making the movie about it, I'm pretty pragmatic, and I sort of think, is it something, oh, okay, so I heard Norm Macdonald talk about how he writes a joke, and he said his jokes come from some issue or some topic that he just can't stop thinking about, and then in crafting the joke, it allows him to move on to the next thing to like obsessively think about. I think I have a bunch of things that kind of collect over the course of my life that I think about a lot. And if I can if there's a potential to have a surprise with whatever the subject matter is, and I can make it into a 3-act structure, then I'll just commit and make it. And if it's not so production heavy that it takes more than a week to make, then I'll make it. But also, sometimes like you'll get into a conflict and you don't really know the answer. So you're setting out to try to understand yourself as the author. You're trying to figure out this kind of puzzle, and in the like writing process of figuring out this video, I will be having slept on it. I'll have what I call a breakthrough, and breakthroughs come from without, and that's why so many people are scared of like committing to an art form, because the breakthrough is not up to you and it's not on your schedule, and oftentimes you literally need to sleep on it. You need to go to bed, and if you pound on your brain all day for your breakthrough, and maybe the next morning when you wake up, it'll slowly come to you, and you'll be aha. And that's what makes it a surprise for the author, for the audience too, because while the audience is watching your thing, they're going to be trying to figure out the solution to the conflict. And if it's just something you thought of, they will have beat you to it. But if it's something that came through the process of a breakthrough from without, then it might be something that surprises and hopefully delights them.
You try to make like a, sorry, did I cut you off? But you try to make like a video every week. I feel like when like,
It's killing me.
yeah, because I feel like when I like try to wait for a breakthrough, it might take me a week to like get that breakthrough. But you're doing a video every.
It's the
Every
labor
week.
for me that kills me. It's the labor. Like I've been doing it so long. You know, this is my 20. I started making videos in the year 2000, and so this is I'm going into my 24th year of this. So it's just a part of my everyday life, and so the YouTube thing I've been doing for 2 years. So I'm pretty used. I used to do 2 a week, and I have a pretty famous brother who did 1 a day for 800 days in a row. Like sophisticated high production movies with drone shots and shit. But yeah, it's the labor, it's the energy to get through I heard like chess players burn 5,000 calories in a chess,
Yeah.
like grandmaster level.
Yeah.
And I feel that like sometimes I'll come home from a run in the morning and I will just, first of all, I'm like fighting to stay awake during my run. I run after I write. Yeah. And then I'll come back to the studio after a run and just fucking crash on the floor for 20 minutes or something. But for me, I think I'm getting older, so just the energy of doing it is the hard part. But the ideas stuff,
It comes to you in a week?
well, I have a stack of like ideas.
Okay.
And then I've been like subconsciously working on the solutions to like problems within the ideas for I don't know how long, and then I'll pull
Okay.
a paper out and I'll say, all right, I'm gonna figure this one out by Tuesday, and then Wednesday's shooting. So
Damn.
Can I say something? I feel as though I was glib when I was talking about how I do what I do or whatever. But I just want to say that I think that the origin story of podcasting. I don't know why we picked an unfortunate word for what
Agreed.
we do, but the origin story is people making audio stories for the love of it, and it was a lot of people in this room are responsible for cracking open the world of radio as it had been known. Like we really, it pushed the boundaries of format and what could be done, and it didn't start with funding. Like we didn't have, there was no money, and it has become it's a beautiful origin story, and we were learning how to make money, or money was coming, and we're all right now in a chapter where it's imploding. The industry, it became an industry, and then the industry is going away, and there are a lot of really gifted people in this room who are part of this strange trajectory, and we don't know where we are. But I guess what I would say is that the irony and maybe the gift of this suddenly being on a stage and celebrating independent media is we need lights shown on us now in this way, and I'm really grateful for that, because we do it for love, and we haven't figured out. We thought we'd figured out how to monetize it, and we're back to square zero. But we will keep making stories, and I think yeah.
I mean, it's a love. Is it a compulsion?
Yes, I think it's a
Is it a compulsion for you, just as an artist, as like an act of expression?
Yeah, I didn't have the nerve really to get going until I was about 40, but I was just saying this to Julie earlier, that I had a son who was looking at me not doing, sort of not doing what I really knew. I mean, I did feel chased by the need to make something, and I was a private investigator, and which was, like getting pieces of it. Like you get to knock on the door, you get to fall in with somebody, but you don't make stories with those conversations. And so finally, suddenly podcasting, this was available. Suddenly, you could do it. You could afford to make it yourself in your house and in your neighborhood. And so there wasn't any excuse there. And I had a kid looking at me, and I didn't want him to grow up looking at me like disappointed in myself. And so so I got started.
Yeah.
I have a question for the panel. So I feel like it's quite a privilege to have the time and the brain space to come up with ideas. And I remember huge chunks of my career where I was working 60 hours a week for someone else and grinding, and then I had a kid, and like all of these things happening where I really couldn't sit down and have an idea that was mine for me. How do you find that time if you're struggling, to make money or to raise a family? What do you do to like free up that space in your head?
Wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Do you have a wife too? That's the other question, because I want to have
Yes.
a wife. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would say my wife is a huge. She is a huge. I don't know what the word, catalyst to everything I do creatively. Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. Tara, her name's Tara, and she's more educated and more capable and logistically talented than I am. But she'll push me out there. There's this thing. I'm a Christian. In Proverbs, it says, "A virtuous woman," and it said her husband will be known in the gates. And I always joke with her about she's out there working to make me be known in the gates. And that's a joke that we always say.
Wait, is this 31?
Proverbs 31, yeah.
Oh my God. I did an episode about that.
Yeah, it's the impossible list, right?
It's insane. Yeah. She makes all of her clothes. She makes the fabric and dresses you all nice so everybody, but she never leaves the house. She never leaves the house.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, yeah, well,
Stuart,
that's
compliment
a good
your wife
time.
immediately.
Thank you for the suggestion, yeah. I was looking for it in the crowd, actually. Elaine, you raise your hand. Yeah, Elaine, my wife, co-founder. Yes, to wives.
I have a question.
Yeah.
There was a comment that you made. You said that I think you said everything's collapsing. You were inferring that podcasting was a thing that took off and everyone could make a thing, and now it's kind of something's happening. I think everyone knows something's happening in the industry. My question is, do you think there's a winnowing that's taking place right now? And if so, what is separating the wheat from the chaff?
I think in podcasting, so you, remember when blogs started? And it was like, well, for me, I started blogging on MySpace, but there was like Blogspot and stuff in the late 90s and early 2000s. And then blogs went like crazy. And then like for a while there, news was blogs. Like you went to blogs to find out what was going on in the world. And then that kind of went away. I feel like, well, not totally went away, but I feel like we're still at the beginning part of figuring out what podcasts even are. I feel hopeful. Like I feel it was, weirdly inflated for a second there. A lot of money went into this thing, and I think what we're doing is just contracting at the moment. I don't think it's like dying. I think we're in the Gawker moment.
But I think there's something that implied in this, the winnowing or the, separating the wheat from the chaff. It implies in a way that there are, I think there's an embarrassment of riches. I think that, in fact, there's a huge amount of passion and talent. And I don't think it's a matter of, I think that the industry around us collapsed, but not because there wasn't an embarrassment of riches, of people making beautiful things. I do think that, I got to a point as an old person, talking with youth people, how did you start the podcast, Mrs. Heilman? There was always this, the first question would be about distribution, and I'd be like, what are we talking about? Like I make it in my bathroom, So it did. There was a time when people were really interested in, we're sort of fixated on industry and like it as a thing to do, but more important is that there's just a huge number of really gifted people who want to make great stories at a time when we need them to be made. So I don't think it's us. Well, I don't think it's the makers. I think it's just the not knowing how to fund us all. Does that sound like I don't like the way that sounded. Or I mean, it sounded like I don't know anything about the industry, which I don't. So
I think
It sounded
that
good
it's
to me.
also,
Yeah.
I think it's also that we're all called podcasts. Like I am in the mind of whoever's the corporate person with all the money, or the venture capitalist, or the private equity firm, whatever. I don't know where the money comes from. That person thinks that what I do is the same as what Joe Rogan does.
that's true. That's true.
And so if they look at Joe
the
Rogan's
celebrities are the
numbers-
problem. I think we can
Yeah,
agree
and
on
just
that.
like sensational
The
stuff.
problem for what?
A
How is
problem
it a
for
problem?
for how
What is the problem,
The
actually?
metric is off for what I make. Like my show can be very popular, but in comparison to Joe Rogan, like no one wants to spend ad dollars on my show because they think of it as the same thing. And I wish we could kind of distinguish the way that like television and films have different kinds of things. We still haven't gotten to the place where in podcasting we talk about, where the world talks about how different these projects are.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. People have brought it up before. And I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's partly what we're trying to accomplish. It's not about assigning judgment to one type is good and one type is bad, but sometimes you want an HBO show because you want to be totally immersed. Sometimes you want a reality TV show because you want to kind of turn off. Sometimes you want something that takes you somewhere far away and teaches you something new. Sometimes you want the local news and in more mature, mediums. All that definition has happened, so you get a lot more agency as a viewer to sort of decide for yourself. And it's a two-way street, right? Like, as you go through and navigate watching this, and it's called that, then you're like, okay, I like that, I didn't like that, or I'm in the mood for X, I'm in the mood for Y. It's not just like all food. You get to, some's fruit, some's vegetables, and some people like some more than others. And so I think that's what I think the big world, that's sort of how it cuts the other way. It's really incredible how much new stuff people are able to make because of modern technology, because it's so easy and you don't have to live on the coast. It's okay if you do, but you don't have to work at a major studio. You can do it in your garage. You can do it with aquariums from your mom, in your mom's bedroom, or your bedroom at your mom's house. So it causes a lot of really, really incredible stuff to get made, but from a viewer's perspective, it gets hard to know what you're in the mood for. And I think that's what you're saying. It's not one's better than the other. It's just like I'm trying to navigate as an audience member, and it's really difficult.
And in reaction to what, I think I knew I think that the implication of the sound that you just made was that there isn't anything wrong with celebrity podcasts. It's fine. It's all fine. But it's problematic when there is no, as you say, there's no mechanism where you can find this small thing over here doesn't have a channel in the you go to whatever iTunes, right? And there is no section for independent media. There's a section for sports and X and Y and Z, but we don't have we need
And
a little.
even in
That's
the
what the
society,
algorithms do.
Even in the society and culture section, it's just celebrities.
But the
again.
algorithms
Or-
connect you to the people who like you. That's what they do.
Do
They're
podcasts
out
have an
there.
algorithm, though? Do podcasting have
Well,
algorithms?
YouTube has podcasts.
Well,
All my videos are also podcasts on YouTube.
See, but
and
that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's not the same. Like a podcast on a video isn't a podcast. Or do you know what I mean? It's just like
I'm just confused as to
say
what
these-
it sounds like the problem is it's hard to find an audience, but I'm saying there's the highest paid geniuses in the world have developed a machine have developed technologies to connect your work to the most appropriate audience without having to have any boss at all. So I'm having
I think it's-
trouble understanding what the actual
yeah.
problem is.
You're right. You're right. There's not a problem because we have more things than we've ever had. We have access to audiences that we didn't have. I think there's a difference between what people that make video content experience than what people that make audio content experience, and that's because it's called discovery. The algorithmic discovery mechanisms are different between, say, iTunes and Spotify and, say, YouTube, because they optimize for different like one might optimize to keep people on the platform, and another might optimize for, I think algorithms are starting to change to viewer happiness or listener happiness, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think that's just now starting to happen.
And in podcasts, we have a lot of paywalled content too, where you only can access this if you're a member and you pay a monthly fee to whatever organization. And that is how we podcasters have to get paid sometimes. But those shows, like I've made shows that none of you will ever see that are like behind a paywall, back when Earwolf had Howl's Network or whatever. 5,000 people have listened to it, that's it. And maybe the best thing I've ever made, but no one will know. And that's kind of the difference also between Spotify and iTunes, is there's this proprietary stuff. So it is new, like this idea of the algorithm and podcasts kind of working to serve the customer. They're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'll bring it back to like some of the themes here at the festival. You know, to your point, Van, like the algorithms do work to get you what you want, but it's not working in a conscious voting mechanism. It's different than like I have to navigate to HBO and I have to, decide I want this type of thing. It's very much programmed to just have your subconscious run what's going on. It's very, very, very good at that. But I think what we're trying to do here is offer another, like there's nothing wrong with that and it does it well, but what if you offered another dimension to also help people find stuff? So you can have that dimension still, but then another dimension of sort of exceptionalism, like we're talking about. There's lots of really, really popular content that lots of people could make, and we're trying to offer the world a way to sort of see people like yourselves who aren't just trying to optimize for the algorithms, that are expressing themselves soulfully, and sometimes that doesn't play to what the computers are trying to connect people with, unless you tell them to look for it and help them find it. And I think people change how they behave when they do that. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish here today. And we're trying to wrap up here in a second. There's a lot more going on. This is great conversation. This is exactly the sort of conversations we're trying to have. And I think that we'll probably end it there, because I want to give everyone a chance to go to the bar, get a drink, use the bathroom, play with everything, and get ready for the first experimental screening event. It's experimental because this is an experimental first-time festival, and this is technically the second time, but very, very close to the first time that the AudioFlux team and producers are going to screen their audio works. So that'll start shortly. So everyone take a second, stretch, refill your cup, refill your mind, your soul, empty your bladder, come back here shortly. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.